No new or used car. Check it out. You can save $3,000 off MSRP. New TrueCar.com. I was thinking about this. So Tim Tebow, the Mets general manager, longtime baseball guy, smart guy Sandy Alderson says, I think he's a Major League Baseball player. Now, baseball has this sort of kind of antiquated system. It's called September call-ups, where you have a roster all year, and then in September you call up a bunch of minor league guys, and they give some of your major league, veterans rest. But it's kind of weird. You have a roster in the NFL right before the playoffs. You wouldn't put like 12 new guys on the roster. You wouldn't do that in the NBA. Baseball does it. It's sort of the landline of American sports culture. It feels outdated and silly and useless. But baseball does it, so good for them. And I think Tebow would be a perfect September call-up. But let me go after this. I hear this a lot about Tim Tebow. Well, even Doug Gottlieb said this. Tim Tebow could be replacing a guy that put all this time in to be a Major League Baseball player, and here is Tim Tebow to take his spot. That's a you problem. Tim Tebow's not taking Mike Trout's spot. He put in the time. He's more gifted. He's not taking Giancarlo Stanton's spot. If Tim Tebow takes your spot, that is a you problem. That you're not good enough to separate from Tim Tebow. I've worked in this business forever. It used to be guys that were on the radio and TV were broadcasters. And then athletes started going on the air and taking broadcasters' jobs. But they don't take Joe Buck's job. They don't take Mike Tirico's job. They don't take the really good people's jobs. If you get replaced by an athlete as a radio host, that's your problem. Be so good, they can't use an inside linebacker to take your job as a radio host. That means he's better at two things, linebacker and radio. That's a you problem. Work harder. Tebow's not taking anybody's all-star job. Tebow's not taking a great prospect's job. Tebow is an outfielder. He's not even taking an infielder's job. He's not taking a catcher's job. He's not taking a pitcher's job. He will take potentially one outfield spot. And it won't even be a starting outfielder. It will be a backup platoon pinch-hitting power outfielder. One spot. If you can't beat Tim Tebow out, you can't beat him out. He took baseball off for, 10 years? That is a you problem. That is not Tim Tebow. I tell my kids all the time, be special. It's hard, but it's great. Separate as much as you can. Put the time in now. Because if you get into my business in radio or TV, let's say you're on Fox News and you're a political pundit and you work really hard in politics and you're ready to get that job at Fox News, and then they hire a former senator to take your job. They're not doing that with Sean Hannity. Okay? So if they're replacing you with a senator, that's on you. Tim Tebow's not taking your job. If you put in the time, if you have absolutely some God-given talent and you have polished it and refined it, they're not taking a great player's job. Hell, he plays an outfield position. He's not even taking 90% of the roster's job. He's not even replacing a starting outfielder. Okay, this is like a platoon outfielder is like a backup left guard. You only play if somebody gets hurt. And I think Tebow's a great baseball story. 162 games, September call-ups. He is a story in a sport that is not great at creating stories. NBA creates stories. NFL creates stories. College basketball creates stories. Baseball doesn't do a great job of creating fascinating stories. Tim Tebow making the Mets would be absolutely fascinating. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
There's an NBA poll that came out today. 48 NBA players were asked a series of questions, and their answers are interesting. Now, remember, it's only 48 of them, and the guys who actually took the time to respond. So it's not
Who did this, though, Christy? It's the NBA or what company?
ESPN.
Okay, so ESPN did
Yes,
this.
they did.
Okay.
So one of the questions was, where will LeBron sign in the offseason? 59% of the 48 players polled said the Cavs. That was followed by the Lakers at 22%, and then the Heat, and then other was 12%.
Yeah.
I'm not buying into this. I think they've got it wrong. And keep in mind, like, those 48 players who answered, they're the ones who, like, took the time to do the poll. So it's not...
It's kind of like an internet poll.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
skewed.
The accuracy...
Depending on the website that you go to, it's going to be skewed in a different direction.
I do think, though, Christine, he did go from the aqua water of Miami to Cleveland. I do think there's part of his heart that's in Cleveland.
Sure.
Like, ideally, like in a perfect world, this bunch of Cleveland guys really work, and they land one more guy, and he stays in Cleveland.
Right, but the fact that the Heat was third on the list, that's definitely not happening. I'd put the Rockets before that.
Yes.
And then just one of the other questions that I found interesting was, if LeBron does leave, what do you think would be the main reason why? 29% of them said Dan Gilbert. 27% said the roster is too weak to beat the Warriors. Not enough branding opportunity was 10%. And other things that gained votes were he's too old, he's trying to win a championship, looking for something new, looking for a more lucrative contract, he's done all he can do in Cleveland, or, I mean, it's Cleveland.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think he likes Dan Gilbert. People I trust, I'm sure you have sources, he doesn't love Dan Gilbert. But you know what? If they were winning titles, Dan Gilbert wouldn't be the issue. Like, to me, the second part of that, the second answer...
That they can't beat the Warriors?
That's it.
Yeah.
Like, if LeBron was beating the Warriors in Cleveland, you just deal with... We've all had a boss that drives us crazy, but if we're doing well or we like the environment, you just ignore the big guy in the big office or the big woman in the big office. Yeah.
There are reports that the Jets will pay whatever it takes to get Kirk Cousins, and they're willing maybe to fully guarantee his deal.
Wow.
You think that's
wow.
a good move?
Well, for Kirk Cousins, it's great. God. Fully guarantee all of it?
Yeah. That doesn't seem smart to me.
Yeah, that, listen. Again, it does sound like a Jets move. Kirk Cousins is good enough if you surround him with all the stuff to win 9 games and keep you in playoff potential. But guaranteeing all of it is that's just not. Listen, the NBA and baseball are built to guarantee money. The NFL basically has a system allowing owners not to guarantee money, so the smart owners don't guarantee money more than they have to. So is it a good move for Kirk Cousins? Good Lord, it's fantastic. I don't think Matt Ryan has. Yeah, if I was the Jets, I wouldn't do it.
And finally, there's reports now coming out that Rob Gronkowski was saying stuff about retirement weeks before the AFC Championship even. It wasn't even just at the Super Bowl. And that he was saying that his body was hurting, and that the toll that it was taking on his body, football was making him lead towards the potential of retiring after this season. So a lot of people were saying that after the Super Bowl, his comments might have just been emotional after the loss.
Yeah.
But if this is true, it means he was considering retirement weeks ago.
Yeah, he's been hurt since college. The only reason I wouldn't retire, there's kind of a rule. Like, even in our business, any business, if you're still really, really good at something, go. Like, if you sense deterioration, you're just not as good a tennis player.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now it's not only hurting my brand, it's frustrating. I would argue that he and the guy for the Chiefs, was it Travis Kelce, are the best 2 tight ends in football. If I was Gronk, and the other thing is, okay, I know you're getting beat up a little bit, Gronk, but you do realize that as long as Brady's around, you're living the best tight end experience you could possibly currently live.
True. So he can make a lot of money outside of football and might just take advantage of it.
Yeah. I think if I was Gronk, I'd stay for 1 more year.
I would too.
Yeah.
He's younger too.
Yeah.
Well, not in football years, but in normal people years.
Proceed with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Fox Sports.